42 pouring in my cup. In the session real loud, good gas, yeah, you know we about to roll it up. Bring the bottle to the session, big tab, go ahead and just live it up. Get lit one night, after that we can go ahead.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Icon, and we here on 95 South Podcast. Once again, I want to thank God for this opportunity to be able to come on this platform to give informative interviews, great conversations with great people. I want to first introduce my co-host, Mr. Just do it Mr. Do It All. That's what I'm talking about. Do it all, Mr. Pull a rabbit out your hat. You know what I'm saying? My man, Mr. Personality himself, Jacob, the great. What's going on, player?
What's happening, man? Once again, we are on this side of the dirt. Another blessed year to do things, inspire people, and to win at life, man. So I'm here, man. And, I thank God for every opportunity you give me, and thank God for blessing us to see another year. And, as we progress, we're going to help others, inspire others. And we're going to make sure that we are a vessel of the Most High.
Yes, sir. And before you introduce this beautiful young lady, this is our first episode of this 2023 year. I call it the GOAT number year because whether it's, depending on if it's Michael Jordan, LeBron, whoever you want to think is the GOAT, this is the GOAT number year. So this is the GOAT number, the 23. And, we got a lot of big things coming. As you will see coming up this year, and we already starting off like with our, feet 10 toes down running already. And so I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce this young lady so we can get started.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce the Honorable, talented Dr. Meleeka Clary. She does so much, but what's so interesting about her, she a clinical psychologist. Along with that, she's a model, actress, a singer, a movie producer, film director, and she just loves people. She's a mother, of so many, including her own children. And, I just say salute to her and thank you for coming on the 95 South Podcast.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I really appreciate it. Thank God for getting me here, too. So I appreciate all the introduction. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, when I hear that when we spoke briefly on the phone and, just knowing who you are and you tell me that, once I read your description and on your website and you did so much with the clinical studies and your clinical psychologist and you deal with a lot of people. You deal with a lot of people, mental, their emotional health, their spiritual health. And so what inspired you to want to become this great person in this profession that a lot of people don't understand? A lot of people don't get it.
Yes. Well, it started with me helping children, being a mentor when I was like a teenager. It was called Wipe Out Drug Abuse for Free Teens. And I liked it helping people then. And it was around my own age as well. It was like after school program. And, just the glory of helping others and to help them, further themselves within the means of themselves. And I just enjoyed, doing that. And it's just, I get a wonderful feeling when I help another person, especially with somebody who doesn't know something or somebody who's been through something and they think, oh, there's no way. And I really, with the tools and the knowledge that I've learned over the years, I like to share that. So it's like, you don't keep the secret, you share the secret. And I love that. And so that started the journey. And then I went into human resources and helped like domestic violence individuals, and it just took off from there. So I was counseling and anybody, if you had any type of issues, if you had drug related issue, if you had a mental disorder or something like that, anything that had to do with you needed help, I didn't turn my back. I wanted to help them. And so by doing so, I that's something I do unconditionally. I want to say it's just something that I love to do, and I like helping others. So it's just in my blood.
Okay. So from the corporate structure of things, with the educational background and the corporate structure on how people who work in corporate America, work at five Fortune 100 companies, and they go through. Sometimes a job can cause you to go through a mental depression. The workload can be too much, or you know, uh, the spouse may not really understand the work environment and how it stresses you out, and you sometimes people bring their stress home. So when you counsel people and you talk to them, and you kind of have to get inside their mind to see what they're thinking and to see how you can make the situation better, from a business standpoint and a emotional and mental and spiritual standpoint. What is that like for you in your everyday life, and how do you walk on that journey and still stand tall?
Well, one, no one's going to tell you or ask you for help. They're not going to tell you they need help. So when you see people, sometimes just saying hi, how are you, is a good thing to do, because you never know what someone's going through. And that's the everyday base. And if you're working a Monday through Friday job, it's some days you just don't like your job, and some days you do. But people always talking among each other. So to me, and how I get through a lot of people, I ask, how are you doing? And sometimes it's just as simple as that. And if you've ever been in a room where one person just walked by and you didn't even notice them, I don't do that. I like to smile, give them, facial gesture. Hey, how are you? Because you never know what they're going through. And that to me is important, because people don't do that every day. And that's how I get to people. And that's a beginning of getting them to talk. And then I start to get to know who they are, and they get to know who I am. And if you ever want to talk, I can, say, hey, my name is Dr. Meleeka Clary. You can help me. I can help you. And that's how I deal with it. And that's how I communicate with people. Because some people are afraid to ask for help when they need the help. It's embarrassing for them, they think. But it's not. But people need to know it's okay. You're not going to be judged. There's no judge. You're not being judged in this circle. Everybody needs help with something. But how are you going to really get it is one thing. But people need to talk, communicate, speak to each other. And that's what I do.
Okay. And so from that standpoint of view, you really put that in layman terms so everyone can understand. So from your educational background, which is very extensive, um, what has been your most challenging, thing as far as, when obtaining education? What was like the hardest, those trials and tribulations? Cause, it takes a lot of studying to get to where you're at. And I know with those educational, long nights of studying and stuff, sometimes, it can get a little challenging. So what was the most challenging part for you, especially when you have to pass state boards and stuff like that? And like, so what was those challenging parts for you?
Well, it's more challenging for me. I could say this just to be, I want to say, motivated when you have a family
Hmm.
and you have things you have to do, and to stay focused to what you need to do and what you want to do and what's your purpose. And that was a challenge for me, because you have a family, you have things that's going through what you're going through and your own family, and you have to deal with, but then you're trying to accomplish something so you can help others besides just your family. So the challenges is just juggling being a mom and trying to deal with being a doctor as well. That's more challenging for me. But I want to really also say that what's really challenging, even being a doctor or being a mom or being a director or a producer or anything in the film industry, you can't change someone just because you want to. You have to influence them to want to change. And that is hard because people, we're building habit of creatures. So we do things and sometimes it's hard to change that. You know what I mean? You want to say, I'm not going to do this today, but because it's so habit for you, you're just doing it. So and if you've been doing it for 25 years and then somebody comes here and say, hey, let me help you change that. These are the type of couples or people that come in my chair, my office, and they want to change their habits. So that's the difficult thing to do, is change somebody. But if they have the desire, it could be done. But it's hard to change somebody. That's the difference.
Okay. Well, before I turn it over to Icon E, I just have um, 3 bullets that I would, well, 4 bullets I would like for you to touch on if you could give us your expertise. Um, Behavioral health, mental health, emotional health, and relationship therapy.
Okay, so you want me to hit all of them?
Please, please, please.
Okay, remind me. So one, you want to hit on relationship therapy?
Right.
Okay. Well, it depends on the relationship. I mean, it's easy to be abroad and say, well, okay, if you have a couple that is wanting to, I want to say, straighten up their relationship, first of all, you got to identify what kind of relationship you have. Is it a
Okay.
relationship? It's just a friendship? It's a relationship that you want to go somewhere you don't know where you're going? That's the first thing. So it's what kind of relationship it is. It could be a boy meet girl, girl meet girl, boy can meet boy. It could be, or it just could be a relationship with just anybody. I mean, just a friend. But what kind of relationship you want to have, and that's the interesting thing, because not everybody knows what kind of relationship they want. And then sometimes people don't want the long-term relationship, but you didn't communicate that with the person that you're dealing with for 15 years and decided you don't want to be in that relationship. So it depends on the situation of what kind of relationship that would need therapy. So that's for that right there,
Oh,
relationship.
okay. Okay. Great. So I hear a lot of people talk about behavioral science and the behaviors of the youth, and sometimes the behaviors of the youth um, have been kind of conducted on what they see in what we call a toxic household. And so I hear a lot of behavioral specialists say that these kids just didn't wake up with behavioral problems. It's the behavioral problems comes from what they've seen, you know, at seen at an early age, things they shouldn't see. And so when it comes to their being a behavioral specialist or understanding behavioral science, what is your take on that as well?
Okay, well, you have two people in this world that you are going to be raised in. Either if it's going to be a mom and a mom, a dad, or if it's going to be mom and dad, however it's going to be, the child is going to grow up in an environment of maybe
Hmm.
two gender, same gender. That's what you're teaching your child, what they're growing up to see. So if you sit up there and let's say you eat macaroni and cheese, well, most likely your child's going to eat macaroni and cheese because that's what you're serving at the dinner table. So if you swear at your child, well, most likely your child is probably going to swear at their child because that's what you're showing at the dinner table. When they mention behavior, it's habits of you showing. I mean, and that's part of your upbringing. So if you're 5 years old, which most of the time your personality develops around 5, and it's at that point that you go to school and you start to go and meet your environment, which is your social environment, where you start to mingle with other children. And then you start to talk about how you live in your household. And that's when you start learning, well, is something wrong with my household? You start comparing because that's how that happens. But to me, that's my opinion, but I have seen it, and there is some statistics that will show that your behavior is started from the upbringing. There is thing that leads on to what a child will learn at home, and this is some of the things that even if you look at yourself, there might be some of the things that you loved during your upbringing, but there's also some things you did not like so much, and you decide when you have children you're gonna change the game. See, there it goes. It's a dynamic. You have to change something. If you didn't like it, change it. You have the ability to change something. If you want to live the same way that your parents raised you and you didn't like it, well, then what you're doing is repetitious. That's all you're doing is repeating the cycle. And so, yes, it does have to do with upbringing.
Okay. Last but not least, um, why does the emotional health affect the mental health so badly when it comes to um, families all across the world? Um, because a lot of things happen emotionally. It kind of weighs down on the mental health, and so how can people overcome that? And what is the structure to overcome that? From you being a psychologist and you studying all types of things when it comes to emotional health and mental health, how can one find balance?
Well, and I have to say this for a lot of people that it's basic communication. If you do not communicate how you feel, is not going to be delivered. You're going to keep it inside. And what happens is those emotions turn in and bottled up until one day you want to explode. So if you're feeling some way, you have to learn to communicate. And that also goes back to upbringing. If you're in a household where we don't ask how you feel or what you're thinking or how was your day, then it's not going to be displayed in your future. It's going to be tough for you to show those emotions because you weren't expressed that during your upbringing. It didn't show that. You didn't learn that. And that's what we're having that problem now because you people are just they are it's so built up that they're exploding in ways that they don't know any other way of an outlet. And that's why it's happening. Them emotions became like a bottle, and then it just pressured. And that's what's happening right now. So to me, communication is so important. And even everyone has some type of extrovert in them and introvert. Some people are quiet, some people are more sociable than others. And that's why I always tell people, speak to somebody. How you doing? That's so important because if you walk the street now, you could walk by somebody and you will know if they're going through anything. And some people don't give you a smile. Some people don't even like the smile because they feel they don't have nothing to smile about. But that is all about communication. So I think if we start communicating better, more effectively, seeing how you're doing, what you're doing, then we can start getting down to the emotional side.
Okay. I appreciate it. So before I give you Icon, all I want to say, I appreciate the dialogue thus far.
Thank you.
It's wonderful, and I definitely have a new found respect for I've learned a lot about mental and emotional health over the past couple of years, and about the signs of you know um, behavioral health, and how to break down the science on it, and how some people never have balance because they were never taught how to have balance. So I definitely appreciate that. So I want to say thank you once again. I'll come back to you.
All right, thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, so you said something about changing your behavior and changing, things in your life that you didn't see as a kid through your parents or probably in your community, And it's kind of funny you said that because that's kind of how I live my life when it's dealing with my family, my friends, and they complain about jobs or lifestyles or whatever they got going through. I said, well, if you don't like what you're going through, change it. You know what I mean? Don't live in misery just because other people want you to live a certain way or they expect you to move a certain way because that's the way they're moving. If you don't like what you're dealing with, then change because you in control of your own happiness and your own joy, and you can't allow somebody else to create that for you or dictate that for you. I don't care if it's your mom, your dad, sister, brother, husband, wife. You have to create your own positive atmosphere or whatever, and let people live in your world instead of you living in their world. So, in saying that, I grew up, as an early age. I had a cousin that was probably bipolar, schizophrenia, and at that age, back in the day, grandmother, she just spoiled, she just bad, whatever. They didn't know what that was. So for you, and then now we living in an age and time where mental health is running rapid and everybody's claiming it from. And we argue. We have our sports show, so we argue about like a Ben Simmons or a Kanye West and all these people. So when you're just sitting down doing these clinical studies on your clients and different people and patients, what do you look for? What do you see that okay, this person is definitely dealing with something versus somebody who you may say, they might just be putting on for attention. So what do you look for in those things?
Some things that during their upbringing, we always get to know what their upbringing, mom and dad, how was it? So getting to know, it's just like any intake. You want to know a little bit about their history, and then you can understand where they're coming from. And that's how I do it. I get to know my clients, and that is starting from what kind of person are you? Where did you come from? How's your mom? How's your dad? And then the pieces will fall. The pieces will fall because, like I told you, those two parents they contribute on making this person to who this person is. They contribute to that. So by knowing what kind of characters they were raised from will explain some things about why they think the way they think. It's like speaking to a person come from a divorced family. They may think that being divorced is normal. Oh, it was something I was raised from. It's okay to get divorced. You could just get out, but why you think that way? And then by getting to know them more, now I know why they think that way, because essentially their parents they got divorced, but they're still together. You see how that worked? They're still together, but they got a divorce. So in that person's mind, it's okay to get divorced. Mommy and dad's still together, though. I could do that going forward. See, but that's what was shown in the home, which essentially you could take that and another side and say, well, mommy and daddy didn't want to be together, but they still didn't show that they were separating. And they still showed there was a family bond still. So you can look at it two different ways and how that person's thinking. So that's how I do it.
Okay, so I'm glad you're here because this is something I always kind of, and it just is my opinion, because I used to be a children's counselor. I kind of been around behavior kids that came from like defects and foster home systems and all that. So I kind of seen a lot of that firsthand. But the question I wanted to ask, and I always thought about this, and me and Jacob talks about this, we look at from generation to generation to generation. So if you look at your grandparents, your great grandparents, they were very strict, very hard, very you do what I say, not what I do type attitude. You got probably spanked and beaten and everything under the sun. Growing up, and then from one generation to the next, it kind of like it eased up, so that the next generation was like, I'm not going to be as hard as my parents. I'm going to give it a little more leniency. So by the time we got to the generation of now, you got a lot of parents that want to be their kids' best friends instead of being the parent. So what have you seen in those dynamics in the studies that you've done over the show? Do I have am I on the right path when I say that's kind of what kind of changed a lot of what we're going through now? We have a lot of kids that are not mentally strong to handle certain things.
You know what? I do see a lot of things happening because life has changed, society has changed. When you look at what you can do to a child, I mean, in some states, spanking is legal to spank. Now, back then in those days, it wasn't spanking, it was abuse. So, yes, that's going to change. Okay, so if you were being beaten back there and you had extension cords or switches, that's abuse, and that's change. So am I going to say that by that part was more effective than now? You know, you may have scars from that. Okay, but from now, yeah, right now, because we have to just find a different discipline mechanism, and that discipline may not be touching your child. It may be something else, but I don't know what kind of discipline that would be for, because there's no perfect parent. There's always self-help books to help you guide to be a parent, but there's no perfect parent out there. There's really not. Now the friend issue here, yes, there's a line. I believe, my personal opinion, you really can't be a friend. Now, there's a difference that you want your child to communicate with you. Yes, but that also happens at the dinner table, asking them, how's your day? Turn off all the electronics. Speak to them. How's your day? Some children will say, same as yesterday. Change that thought. If you get a child that says that, no, it's not always the same. There's always something different. But some of them children, you got to get it out of them. And then but you got to work it. But see, this is what I tell parents. You wanted to be a parent, put in the work. It's not going to be easy. Just like if you go work at a job, you want to be the best manager. Well, you have to work to be the best manager, and you will have to work at being the best parent. You will have different children with different personalities. You got one child that's just like, oh my goodness, she's just, she's off this charts. You got one son or one boy, he may just be somebody you're like, oh, he's taking a lot out of me. And then you got one that's just a golden child. Every one of them have different personalities, and you have to be that personality with that child. And if you don't know how to do it, then you get some therapy and counseling to learn how to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you need to do that. But I'm telling anybody, there is no perfect parent. You do the best you can, but don't give up. That's the thing that's important. Don't give up, because that's what I am seeing in this generation. It's easy to give up. And that's parents too. The children are giving up too. I don't want to, we're not talking, we don't understand each other. It's a wrap. I'm gone. That's it. And it's like no one's communicating. If it's not being said, there's no you don't resolve the situation that way. There's no resolution. It's just that we just never came back to that situation. But did you have resolution? See, and that's important, to have resolution. So having a new generation now, it's talking more, putting down the phone, communicating with your children. And even for parents, putting down the phone, communicating with your children. Stop everything you're doing. Because at the end of the day, and this is how I feel about that, is that these children didn't ask to be here. It takes two parents that wanted the children to be here. So if that is so, be the parent.
Okay. Before I get back to my brother, I got one more question. I get back to you. I'm gonna get right back to you, my brother. I got one other question. So, and I know a lot of people don't like talking about this because it can get a little bit dicey. But when you start talking about the black man in the home and the masculinity of a black man being seen almost removed, or being almost like I guess I guess I could say removed from a society. It's like they're trying to weaken us as black men as far as what you see on TV and everything else. What do you see as being a doctor yourself and being an expert? What do you see? Do you see like the black man being removed for a long time now, but really being like almost taken out altogether, even when the black men are running around this country, and a lot of them are very feminine in nature or just not strong, how do you feel like that's affecting the home and our community as a whole?
So you have a black man, and you're saying that for that black man that it's being more belittled. Is that what you're more saying? Is that a black man's being more belittled?
Well, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like we don't have that role model of a black man a lot of times in a lot of communities, that you see that the black man, it's okay to show a black man in a dress. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just talking about the black man. I know it's other cultures and other things, but showing the black man in a dress, or showing the black man not being that father figure or that role model that these boys need to see. That they're showing more of the other stuff than they're showing what a black man can be. And now we're seeing our entertainers, the ones that are doing positive stuff, a lot of them get destroyed and get, basically, demeaned and like in the Kyrie Irving situation. He tried to fight for us as people, and his own community in the basketball world pretty much just kind of like treated him like Kunta Kinte, or treated him like like basically we're gonna put you in front of the world and we're gonna kind of basically like tear you down. You know what I mean? So, and whether you agree with Kanye West, they did him kind of the same way. Whether you agree with him or disagree with him, they did him the same way. So that's what I mean.
Okay, I understand. I think there's a disadvantage in the black culture as a whole. And when you look at the black man, I look at black women. I think it's a disadvantage in both sides. And I think that if you were looking at what a black man is supposed to be and versus what a man is supposed to be, then it depends how they're home bringing, because their upbringing. Because if you look at Martin Luther King, he was a black man, and he looked very firm, and he marched. That's a black man that did that. That is a black man who did what he stood for, but he was bringing a community together as a whole, black and white together. And he still was a black man that did it. And he showed his strength. He showed, his masculine. He showed that. And so I see that black man. That's the black man I see. Okay. So I'm going to say that to you. That's the black man I see. That's the black man that I quote.
Okay. Got you. And so I just wanted to comment back, when you say the generations, and when you say, some of the discipline that we got back in the day, they call it abuse now.
Yes.
Okay. I can see that. I can see why someone would say that, but I wouldn't say that. The reason why I wouldn't say that, because the discipline that I got that my other friends didn't get, they all got felonies, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. And so, even when I was got grown, I had conversations with my dad, and he said, and even me and him talked about, some of my friends used to tell me, they were like, "Man, you lucky, bro." I said, "Why am I lucky?" He said, "Man, you got your mama and your dad in your home. Y'all a real family." I said, "You call it luck, I call it blessed." He said that too. But my dad used to always tell us when we got grown, and when we used to talk about the tough love and stuff like that, he said, "I did that because I wanted you to do two things in your life. I want you to stay out of jail and stay out of hell." And he said, a lot of your friends that you played ball with and went to high school with, they don't have nobody to steer them right. They don't have nobody to guide them. They don't have nobody to mentor them. They don't have nobody. Because I know the discipline that I gave you, it ain't nothing compared to what society will give you if you mess up out there. And so, and I think that people have fail to realize that parenting is not an easy job. It's a very, very hard job. And if you don't discipline your kids, society will discipline your kids in the way that's going to make you cry, or cause you to have heartaches, or cause your blood pressure to go up, or cause you to go into an ulcer, or cause you to have a nervous breakdown, or cause you to be mentally disbarred because your child is going through something like that. And so I tell people that the days of tough love, do I think they still need to exist? I do. But having tough love, and also after that discipline has gone on, sit down and showing your children that you're compassionate about being their parent, that you're compassionate about you're my young man, you're my young daughter, that I want to be a productive citizen in society. I want you to turn heads and inspire people, and you have to inspire to be inspired. And so, those hard nosed conversations after you do the discipline, those conversations when the TVs are off, like you said, the cell phones are off, then you sitting at the table and you tell all the women to get out the room, and you having these talks with your sons, and the mothers is having to talk with the daughters, and the dad is having that daughter and that father relationship. No other man should love a woman like they dad loved them. Like that is the first king that's supposed to love you. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of times nowadays, a lot of young ladies don't have that. And so they just searching for love. And then they go through the domestic violence, the sexual assault. Um, they go through where it's mentally challenging to them. That where am I not good enough for a male? So, or should I should I love somebody who I know understand me? And so then they start having this energy where they start liking girls because they feel like a man means them no good. So I think that the real parenting starts when you know you can take your daughter out on y'all gonna have dinner together. Y'all talk about real life, especially when she starts hitting puberty and she's in her teenage years, and you coach her, and you coach your sons about what goes on in the real world. You know, understanding what the law means, understanding who the law is. And understanding that it's certain things that you can't do at night. Because my granny used to say after 12 o'clock ain't nothing open but legs in the jailhouse. So she was saying that she said anything that you can do at 1 o'clock at night, you can do at 3 or 4 o'clock in the daytime. And so these are the hard nosed conversations that we don't have no more. And I think that the younger generation don't sit on the steps, of the old man who's drinking his glass of tea and smoking his tobacco pipe and really talk about real life. They don't understand what the depression days mean. But our generation had those older people, like you had people in your neighborhood that was not kin to you, but you called them uncle because they know that you was Mr. and Mrs. Son, and if you did anything wrong, they can chastise you and won't want nothing to be said. So I think that how the world is now, I think you should mix the analog and the digital together to give the world balance. That's my take on it.
Mhm. Yeah, I appreciate your opinion on that. And I do want to add to that. When you talk about discipline, I want to just go back to that. When you talk about discipline, it's all forms of discipline. It doesn't have to be beating somebody.
Right.
I mean, when I say discipline, back then they changed the laws in many places because there was abuse. It was valid. Like I said, extension cords. Can you imagine you use an extension cord to beat your child? Extension cord. They really hurt. That's abuse. So that
Right.
has to change. I
Hmm.
mean, they leave whips on you. That's like slavery all over again on your back. I mean, that discipline had to change. But then you have different type of discipline. I mean, I even say I think my form of discipline on some areas, it's like a child could go in a corner. Now you might think this might be harsh in a way because they say, oh, that's not timeout. Well, how long is timeout going to be? That child could be standing up there for 8 hours. And that's a discipline that I feel like I didn't want to be in that corner. My dad did that to me. And he put me in a corner for 8 hours. I mean, the feet was hurting. That's a form of discipline too. So to me, you have different types of discipline. And I've learned that way too. Or writing on a piece of paper, like a book. You ever know those graphic? I think it's like X's. You ever did that in school? Do that for a whole day. You see how your hand hurt. You know what I mean? That's a form of discipline. See, there's different types of discipline. You don't know what I'm talking about. In first grade, you had that. You didn't want to listen to the teacher. You're going to sit on your recess, they called it, and you're going to do the X's. Well, my parents took it home. Okay? So that's a form of discipline too. So there's a lot of different ways to discipline. But when you go back into how our upbringing, I'm still going to go back to the family base, the parents. If you're not sitting with learning the wisdom from this person, you're not showing that either. Communication, you have to sit with that person and make your child sit with that person too. And if you're not doing that, how are you going to expect them to do it? They're just going to say, well, that's just some old person yapping. I don't want to hear that right now. And that's what they're looking at. They have no respect towards it, because if you're a parent and you had respect for that, then show that. Make them do it before that, at an age before they could tell you, I'm not going to do anything you want me to do. And if I recall, most of the time, you still have the authority until a child's 18.
Well, I just don't know how that works, man, because I can remember that people be like, you tell me, man, bro, I seen your dad, man. I had to hide. I'm talking about friends. I had to hide, not because I'm scared of him, because I got too much respect for Mr. Jacob. You know what I mean? And so the thing about that, man, me myself, somebody was telling me, man, we can do this, man. The police gonna give us a ticket. I said, yeah, but think about this, bro. My dad a pillar of the community. He know everybody in this town, bro. So they might not even put me in handcuffs. They might just call him. Hey, I seen Junior out here. He hanging with the wrong crowd. And I know they was doing something they had no business. Because it's happened before. And like I tell people, I would much rather not face my dad. I fight 4 or 5 people before I want to face my dad, because he just had that. You just knew what it was, and that started when we were J high to a grasshopper. You just knew. You know what I mean? Like, it ain't, and it's like how I see all these parents have to come off their job to the school. No, man. Like, listen, man. I tell you, you can act. Any of my friends, they be like, Jacob will tell you, bro, I'm gonna just chill out, man. I'm just hanging by myself today, because I knew if my daddy came off his job, there's gonna be some problems. If he gotta miss money because I'm doing something I ain't got no business, when I know I should be acting right, it was gonna be some problems. And so it's like they don't. It's when you talk about that masculine male icon, man, that was part of that masculine male in the house. You know what I mean? That was that thing that you knew, man, that we can't play them games. And so with that being said, and it's still a ton of good men out there, masculine males, like a ton of good women out there. And I just think we just got to unify once again, like it was unity back in the day, where everybody in the neighborhood was tight. It's got to get back to that again.
And I agree with what you're saying. I'm sorry. I agree with what you're saying, but it sounds like to me your dad had gained the respect and he had no
Mhm.
problem talking to other children, and they would listen because what was coming out of his mouth was wisdom. And that's what sounds like what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah. Yes,
and
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
and if that is the case, yes, he's got his respect for that. And that's what I
Right.
mean. He took the time. I heard something that you said that after he disciplined you, he sat there and talked to you. Why? That
Yes.
is important key to understand. It's why. And he communicates. See how that works?
Right.
Communication is
Right.
still there. He took the time to do that. And that's what I wanted to say to you about that.
And
Well,
I'm truly grateful for sure.
Oh,
yeah, because this is what I want to do before we get out of here. And I wish we had more time than what we do, but we are fighting up against the networks and stuff that we kind of deal with. So we always like on a time schedule. So we always get in these tight squeezes or whatever. But what I want to do is spend the last couple of minutes talking about your acting career. Because when I seen your bio, I said, "What?" I said, I'm unless my math is off, it's only 24 hours in a day. So how is this lady doing all of this? This is ridiculous. Like I'm like your credentials from what you do on the clinical side to the acting, and you say you're a mom and a wife. If not, I'm not mistaken. I'm like, how do you have time in life to do you? When do you sleep? Like you have to be like a
And
bat. You even upside
and
down
I
and
come she's a model, a singer, an actress,
you know what I'm saying?
you know,
It's
like
ridiculous.
everything, bro. Like she's something
So,
serious.
yeah, so I
thank you.
want to know. So just briefly, just tell us how did you get into just the entertainment world? You don't have to go through a whole. How did you
Oh,
even get into that off of everything else? We might have to
well,
do a whole nother show just to talk about that.
well,
Like
I do
for
have
real,
to
for real.
say, thank you so much. I'm a divorcee, so I'm not married. I used to be, but
Okay.
I have to clear that. But what I am going to say to you, I got into it when I was 13, a director, and first for anything, God, I give the praise to God because I couldn't do anything without Him. I have a relationship with Him, so that's how I'm doing it. So let's just put that out there. But the beginning is I a director seeing me, a director in middle school, said, "Hey, you should play Harriet Tubman." So I played that play, and I did well as the lead. And from then on, I actually she got me an audition, and I started audition for stuff like that. And then after that, I got out of it. I was in it for a while. I want to say I left maybe 17 years. I left the industry and I did shows. I did my own show. I did all this other stuff, model acting and all this other stuff. And I only left because as being a woman, a lot of people, when you're in that director or whatever, you're hosting a show, a lot of disadvantages, like taking advantage, like what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to do something just to get on top. So I left the industry because of that. I didn't want to bear down. So that I'm out of that. I left because of that. But I came back because one thing I know about that, I'm a human rights activist. I believe in rights and I believe in your voice. So I end up getting back because when I did go through a divorce and it was just, girl meet boy and whatever the case may be, the divorce needed to go. But he was the lawyer. His friends were judges and lawyers and higher. And it was a manipulation that's going on with that. And I knew what was happening wasn't right. So something that I am religious and I was going to jail for allowing my son to be baptized with nothing in my divorce decree says you couldn't do that to allow your child to be baptized. And it's a God honor to know a child wants to be baptized. So that was a great moment, but it ended up me almost going to jail for 24 hours because of that. So I ended up protesting. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, there's nobody else who's going to protest. But God said, hey, get up and go. Do it. Even if it's by yourself. I'll find you some people. And that's what happened. I ended up protesting by myself first, and then other people helped out. And then I didn't go to jail. It became moot for some strange reason because the embarrassment, because I was putting it out there. And then that's when I went back to the industry, but it was going to be on my terms. And the person I was dealing with at the time, very good supporter, he believed in me and he said, I'll help you. It's not going to be like that. Let's go ahead and get your voice out there. Go back to doing what you like to do. And I started auditioning and started getting parts and stuff like that. And then I decided, I would like to be more in power. And I started writing a movie about the situation and decided to put my own movie together, independent film. And that's why it's based on true events. And that's how I end up coming back to the movie industry, because of my voice. And if I could change something that would happen to me to what happened to so it won't happen to somebody else, that's why I think psychology and film works together. And if I could do that, then I'm doing what I need to do for me and for others too.
I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we get you back on here soon to really like break down some other stuff and go through everything that you're doing on and everything, acting, modeling, the whole nine. Because I'm in awe. I really am. When I've seen it, I was like, I had to read a few. I had to read that thing like 4 or 5 different times, because I'm just like, wow, this is like something that, and I know you did, but I like, this is something somebody, when they trying to get a job, they just make up stuff as they go along just to try to get a job or something. You know what I'm saying? So but yeah, man, can you just like tell people where they can find you? If you do have any upcoming projects that you want to promote, let us know, and just where they can find you.
Yes, Facebook, you can find me. I also have my website. It's drmeleekaclary.com. They can find me on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Meleeka Clary, Ghosh. Sometimes it's like that, or Meleeka Clary or Dr. Meleeka Clary. You could just Google me as well. I'm all over Google. And the movie Three Corners Deception came out 2021, only selective theaters. This year we're hoping to come out publicly, because a lot of people want it to come out, but we are doing the film festival all over the country, and it's been doing wonderfully. So yes, it's been doing wonderfully. So I cannot say how great I am for your first film and a feature film, how wonderful it is doing. So God is good there. So, but that's how you can find me and support that. And if it's anything new, we'll let you know.
Okay.
I want to thank you for giving us your time, because I know with your schedule, you did not have to give us your time. So I am very grateful.
What's funny about her, man, I know she had to be a person of God, right? So I was looking through Facebook. So I went to the movie page, and I grabbed the email off the movie. I said, well, I'm gonna try my luck, and I'm gonna allow God to do the rest. And so, with that being said, I get this call from a 617 number, and I couldn't hear her at first. She called back, and it seemed like I was talking to somebody that I knew for 20 years, and the conversation was just positive, and she was like, "So when, where? Let's do it." And here we are tonight. So I'm grateful.
Humble person, so I just thank God for to come on here, and hopefully somebody gets something out of this and get educated. And I hope if 2 people do need help, they reach out to you. So you have a blessed night and a blessed week, and you just keep doing great things. You know what I'm saying? Because you're definitely a queen in the Black community that we need to keep around, and we need to lift up and support you any way we can possible at any point.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you both.
All right, Queen. Take care. Be blessed. Good night.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
We got the good vibe, got the 1942 pouring in my cup.